August 14th, 2018. $50,000 is the price on my head. I guess I should be honored that it wasn't just a six-pack and a baggie full of blow. Matt, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service guy, told Howie that Jeff Lowe had offered up a witness who said Joe Schreibogle offered him $50,000 to kill me. Matt said the guy refused to testify when he found out that U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service was leading the charge. That tells me he's some exotic owner or dealer, or he wouldn't care. In 2016, we had Joe up against the wall, and Howie went to an all-day and nearly all-night mediation where Joe agreed to stop breeding exotic cats, and we would give him a long time to pay us back at a rate he could afford. In the days that followed, Jeff Lowe jumped in and convinced Joe that he'd pay all the legal fees if Joe would make him a partner in the zoo. The deal fell apart, and I'm surprised it took 2 years for those two men to come to hate each other. I think they are both such liars that it is impossible to know what caused the split, but what we do know is Joe was running the zoo in April of 2018 when he claimed to have thrown Jeff out. Jeff had gone to Las Vegas to start up a casino-hopping bus called the Safari Bus, where he'd pick people up on the Strip, take them to his rented house, and charge them to fondle cubs. We turned him in, PeTA turned him in, and I didn't hear anything more about it until I found out that Jeff had been in jail for not having permits to do that, and his cubs had been seized because they were in such poor health. Next thing you know, Jeff has gone back and thrown Joe out of the zoo. Jeff said Joe was stealing from him, and they finally got caught by Walmart for feeding the expired meats to customers at their zoo tiki bar. Losing their free meat source, I knew things were going to go south pretty quickly. Lots of cat places depend on that free meat, despite the fact that it is of questionable quality and it isn't a balanced diet for big cats. Most of them wouldn't exist at all if not for the throwaway food, so it's long bothered me that it enables the worst of the worst who don't care if their adult cats die young because all they need are cubs to pimp out. Jeff's judge in Nevada let him out on a 1-year probation that requires him to stay out of trouble. I don't think he can stay out of trouble for a year. In fact, he has just had a final judgment handed down in another matter where he allegedly stole a food truck from a man who was renting it to them to set up their drive-in movie next door on property they didn't own. You can't make this stuff up. The judge in our lawsuit against the zoo ordered us to pay $30,000 and Jeff to pay $80,000 to $90,000 to the receiver. We paid our part. Jeff and Joe didn't pay theirs. So the receiver and our attorney went to the zoo to try and reinstall the cameras over the registers again and set up systems to monitor the cash, but Jeff wouldn't let them in. The receiver is filed for a contempt judgment. Meanwhile, Jeff and Joe continue to throw each other under the bus. Joe is in hiding, and Jeff claims that he's gotten calls from the taxidermist saying the 6 tigers Joe shot for their pelts are ready for pickup and he owes them over $5,000. The jeweler also reportedly called, saying that the gold-plated tiger teeth are ready too. Jeff claims to know, and says he's told authorities, that Joe shot and killed all of the tigers he couldn't sell or use for breeding anymore. In 2016, Joe had over 200 tigers and other lions, ligers, etc., but Nat Geo reporters Sharon Geinup and Steve Winter went there last week and said there are only 68 big cats and almost no other animals. According to Matt, between Jeff and Joe ratting each other's bad deeds out, they have pretty good evidence against Doc Antle and others, so this could be a huge bust by the time it's done. He tells Howie that he has enough on Joe to indict him for murder for hire, violations of the Endangered Species Act, bankruptcy fraud, and more. His plan is to pick him up on some small charge so they can convene a grand jury while Joe's in prison to indict him on the bigger charges. He doesn't want Joe to flee the country if he learns that they are trying to seat a grand jury. When the lid is blown off this mess and the public learns about all of the abuse that has happened under the current regulation scheme, our pill will be poised for immediate passage. I hate that so many cats have suffered, but it's going to end on my watch. Well, that was 2018. How naive was I to think that Congress would actually move and get this done in 2018? Yeah, here we are, 2022, still trying to get this passed. But this is the year of the tiger. If you're enjoying my diary, please like, share, and subscribe. You can find other ways to connect to me over at bigcatrescue.org/Carole.Baskin.